working with files in SharePoint Online using the browser. SharePoint Online enables your team to manage files entirely in the cloud through a web browser, avoiding the need to sync files to your local computer. In this training, we will cover how to perform common file operations using SharePoint in the browser and highlight why working online is beneficial. You'll learn how to upload files, open and edit them either in the browser or in desktop Office apps, save changes back to SharePoint, and move files between folders, all without using any sync client. By keeping work in SharePoint's web interface, you get real-time collaboration and a single source of truth for documents and fewer sync headaches. SharePoint versus OneDrive. This Office 365 illustration highlights the key difference. OneDrive for Business is meant for an individual's work documents, whereas SharePoint stores team documents on a team site. OneDrive is your personal space. Think My Documents, where you create and edit files that only you can see unless you share them. SharePoint, by contrast, is a shared workspace for collaboration. Files in SharePoint are accessible to your team or department by default. In short, OneDrive is for private work files, your own drafts and personal work, while SharePoint is for shared team files that multiple people need access and work on together. Both OneDrive and SharePoint live in the cloud as part of Microsoft 365, so you can reach your files from any web browser. The key distinction is ownership and audience. Documents in your OneDrive, quote-unquote, my files, belong to you and won't be visible to colleagues unless you explicitly share them, whereas documents in SharePoint are owned by the team or company. Everyone with access to that SharePoint site can find and collaborate on them. Now, OneDrive for web versus OneDrive sync. When we say OneDrive for web, we mean accessing your OneDrive or SharePoint files through a web browser, like going to office.com or your SharePoint site library online. It's the online interface where you work directly with cloud files. On the other hand, OneDrive Sync refers to the OneDrive application on your computer that syncs cloud files to your File Explorer. This sync client lets you open SharePoint OneDrive files or folders from your computer as if they were local files. However, relying on File Explorer for shared files can lead to many problems. The sync process isn't perfect. If you or others are working on the file simultaneously while offline, you could get sync conflicts where multiple versions of the file exist and need to be manually merged together. You might also not see updates in real time when using the File Explorer copy of a file, since it updates on a delay or only when synced. Furthermore, the OneDrive sync client has practical limits. It can struggle if you try to sync too many files. The known limit is around 300,000 files and folders total across all libraries. Large team SharePoint libraries can easily hit this limit, causing sync errors and slowness. By using SharePoint in a browser instead, you're always working with the latest version on the cloud, and you avoid those capacity and conflict issues. In fact, a best practice is to not sync and use the website instead. Bottom line, SharePoint and OneDrive both store files in the cloud, but OneDrive is your personal cloud drive, while SharePoint is the team's shared drive. And rather than treating SharePoint like a network drive and File Explorer, try to do all of your SharePoint work inside a browser or Office apps directly. This way, you'll have fewer sync headaches and more reliable collaboration. Uploading files to SharePoint via the browser. To upload files using your web browser, first navigate to your SharePoint site and open the document library, for example, the Documents library, where you want to add files. You can drag and drop files from your computer straight into the library in your browser window. When you drag a file over the library, you'll see a highlighted drop area. Release the mouse to drop the file, and SharePoint will upload it. You should then see the file appear in the library's file list within a few seconds. You can even drag and drop multiple files. Alternatively, you can click the Upload button at the top of the document's library and choose Files. In the dialog that appears, select one or more files from your computer. You can hold Ctrl or Shift to pick multiple files, and confirm. The selected files will be uploaded to SharePoint and will show up in the library. You can also select entire folders to upload. When you do, it may ask you to confirm the folder upload. Simply select Upload. Accessing and opening files in the browser. Once files are in SharePoint, you can open them directly in your browser. To do this, simply click on a document's name in the SharePoint library. By default, Office documents like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files will open in Office for the web, the browser-based Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. For example, clicking on a Word document will open it in Word Online in a new browser tab. In this online view, you can read the document and even click Edit to make changes in the browser. Any edits made in Office for the web are auto-saved back to SharePoint in real time. You might notice a saving indicator that quickly turns into save, without you needing to press save. Non-Office files, PDFs, images, etc., will typically open in the browser as well. PDFs might open in SharePoint PDF Viewer or your browser's PDF Reader, and images will display in browser. This means you can view or lightly edit most files without leaving the browser at all. You can right-click any file and select Preview to get a glimpse of the file before truly opening it. From this view, you can cycle through all the other documents that are inside your document library to take a look at it before opening it truly. If you decide to open it, you can use the Open button in the upper right-hand corner. From this view, you also have a few other options, such as downloading the file, favoriting the file, which we will get to further in this training, deleting the file, or finding out more information about the file. Favoriting files and folders for quick access. Favoriting is like bookmarking an important document or folders, so you don't have to navigate through layers of folders every time. In SharePoint, you can favorite both files and folders to keep them within easy reach. To favorite a folder, navigate to the specific folder in SharePoint, click the star icon labeled Favorite at the top of the page, or if you click the three-dot menu. Once favorited, the folder appears in the Favorites section of your OneDrive web interface. This gives you quick access without needing to browse through complex site structures. The same thing can be done with files. To favorite a file, you can click on the three-dot menu or click on the file itself, and in the upper bar, again select the star icon labeled Favorite. Once it is favorited, it too can be found in the Favorites section of your OneDrive web interface. Favoriting files and folders helps streamline your workflow by centralizing your most used content in one easy-to-access location. Opening files and desktop applications from SharePoint Online. Sometimes you may need to use the full desktop application for advanced editing features. SharePoint makes it easy to open files in their desktop Office apps, like Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, right from the browser. There are two common ways to do this. First, if you already have the document open in Office for the web, look for the Open in Desktop button. In this case, it's in the upper right-hand corner as a drop-down option under Editing. Click Open in Desktop will launch the corresponding application on your computer and prompt it to load the document from SharePoint. The second method is from the library view. Right-click the file or click the three-dot menu next to the file name, select Open, and then choose Open in App. For example, selecting Open in App on an Excel file will launch Microsoft Excel on your computer and open the file directly from the SharePoint server. You might see a browser prompting asking for permission to open the Office application. Confirm that to proceed. Once the desktop app opens the file, you can verify at the top that it's connected to SharePoint. Often, it will say Autosave On. Now, you can use all the advanced features of the desktop software, but still be working off the SharePoint copy of the file, saving files back to SharePoint from desktop apps. When you edit a file in a desktop Office application, opened from SharePoint, saving your changes is straightforward. You don't need to download or upload anything manually. If you're using an Office 365 version of Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, autosave is likely enabled by default for cloud files, meaning every few seconds your edits are automatically saved to SharePoint. You can usually see the autosave toggle in the top left-hand corner of the app, which should be set to on, and it might flash saving as you work, then saved. This ensures that as you type or make changes, they are continually sent back to the SharePoint server. If autosave is off, or if you're using a one-time purchase Office version, you can still save manually. Just click the Save button or press Ctrl+S. The key point is that the document already knows its SharePoint location, so when you save, it saves directly to the SharePoint library. No extra upload steps needed. For example, if you add a new paragraph in Word and hit Save, those changes are now in SharePoint version of the file for everyone with access to see. If you want to save a copy of the file, you can use Save As and choose a SharePoint location or download a copy, but for normal saves, you're editing the SharePoint file live. After saving, everyone else who opens the file from SharePoint will get the updated content. This tight integration between Office apps and SharePoint means working on files from the desktop is just as seamless as working in the browser. All changes end up in the same central document library. What if you want to create a new document from the desktop app and save it to SharePoint? You can do this by going to Save As section of the Office app. Here you'll see recent SharePoint sites and document libraries you've accessed. You can pin these to your quick access for future use. You can even easily switch to other document libraries in the same site using the dropdown. Below, you should see the folders and files within the document library and navigate to the desired location. Name your file appropriately and select Save. This will save it directly to the SharePoint library location you selected. In a similar fashion, you can also open up files from SharePoint in this method. Navigate to the desired SharePoint site and document library and select the file you wish to open. Practices for searching in SharePoint. Finding files quickly is crucial as SharePoint content grows. Here are some best practices for using search in SharePoint. When you're in a SharePoint site, you will see at the top is a search bar. Inside the search bar will tell you the context in which the search will take place. For instance, this says I can search this whole site. Typing in a file name here will return some quick results, and I can open those quick results directly from here. If, however, I want a more comprehensive list of results, I can hit Enter. This will take me to a full search page with all the results listed. Now you can get to the search bar from several places. Again, this is from the site level. However, you can also go to your SharePoint homepage and use the search bar here to search all of SharePoint. You can also go to a particular document library within a site. But you will notice that when you run a search within a document library, the context is search this library. Performing a search in here will return just the results from the document library first. However, down at the bottom, you can select Expand Search to all items in the site. Probably one of the easiest places to use SharePoint Search is from your OneDrive. If you navigate to your OneDrive and use the search bar at top, you can see you have options to search your files, all files, or the whole organization. Setting it to whole organization will search the entirety of SharePoint. Enter in the word you're searching for and hit Enter. This will return a full SharePoint search. From the search results page, make note that this OneDrive search functionality of SharePoint needs to happen from the full OneDrive application. You will know you are in the full OneDrive web application when you see OneDrive listed in the bar. Accessing this from Outlook web app and going to the OneDrive location does not get you this search bar. Searching here simply searches your mailbox. To do file searches for SharePoint, you need to at least go to OneDrive or SharePoint. Either of these locations will get you access to SharePoint Search. Let's go back to the search results page. You will notice that you can do a few things. You can filter by document type, its modified date, see a preview of the file, open the file directly, and also see the location of the file. The location here listed underneath the title will show you the exact location that that file is contained in. For instance, this one is contained in the Yellowstone Summit site in Guest Services document library. Clicking on this will bring me to that location. Navigating folders, SharePoint versus File Explorer. Many users are familiar with the way Windows File Explorer shows a folder tree on the left side, allowing quick navigation by expanding and collapsing folders. However, in SharePoint web interface, the navigation is a bit different, since there isn't a persistent left side folder tree for libraries by default. Instead, SharePoint uses a breadcrumb trail at the top of the page to indicate your current location and let you navigate upward. When you're inside a document library, look at the top of the file list and you'll see something like this: the site name, the document library, the folder, and the subfolder. This path is the breadcrumb. Each part of that path is clickable. For example, if you are in a subfolder and you want to go back up one level, simply click on that folder, or click on the document library name to go all the way back to the root of the library. This replaces the typical folder tree you might expect. It's a single line navigation path at the top of the site. If it is a very long path, SharePoint will abbreviate it by using an ellipses. For instance, in the following folder path, it is too long to display all at once, so the beginning part of the path is displayed by ellipses. Clicking on this will show me the beginning parts of that path, and I can select the appropriate one I want to get to. Again, selecting anywhere in the path will bring you to that appropriate folder. The key takeaway is that in SharePoint's browser UI, to go up a folder level, you must use the breadcrumb path at the top of the page. Also note that because SharePoint is web-based, you can use the browser's back button to go to a previous page you're on, but clicking the breadcrumb is usually the more direct way to go up the hierarchy. Moving files within SharePoint folders. Organizing files is easy in SharePoint's web interface using Move To and Copy To commands. Let's focus on moving a file to a different folder or even a different library. In the document library, let's select the file, click the checkbox next to its name or single-click the item, then click the Move To button in the menu bar at the top of the library. If you don't see it, you might find it under an Actions or More menu. Once you click Move To, a panel titled Move will open. This panel lets you browse destinations. You'll see the current site and library, and you can navigate through the folder structure to choose a target location. For example, you might click into a subfolder where you want to place the file. Once you've selected the destination folder, click Move Here button. SharePoint will then relocate the file to that folder. The file will disappear from the original location and reappear in the destination. If version history and metadata are enabled, those are retained during the move, at least when moving within the same site. Copy To works similarly, but creates a duplicate in the new location instead of moving the original. Using these commands is safer than manually downloading and re-uploading files because it preserves all the file info and ensures permissions remain intact. Note for large folder jobs, it may take some time before the files show up in their final destination. There should be a Move Job indicator that you can expand to view details of the moved progress. You must wait for this to complete before they show up in the final destination. It is recommended that you leave your browser window open and on the same page while this job completes. If you need to keep working while this job completes, open up a new tab or window in which to work from. Sharing and emailing files. Sharing files in SharePoint allows your team members to access them without emailing attachments back and forth. However, it's important to share wisely, especially with external parties. Let's go over how to share files or send them via email and highlight differences for internal versus external recipients. When sharing with internal colleagues, and they have access already to the SharePoint site and the location where the file is at, and you simply just want to provide them a link to the document in which they already have access to, simply go to the document and select the share icon. Or select the document and hit the share icon from the ribbon. In either case, the share dialog will pop up. From here, you want to go directly to link settings, and you're going to select only people with existing access. This ensures that no additional permissions are added or changed, and that you are following the existing permissions set to the file. Hitting apply and copying that link will allow you to give that link to an internal colleague in which they can use to access the document. If we were to paste this link into the browser, it brings us directly to that document. Alternatively, you can go to the three-dot menu and select Copy Link. And when the Copy Link dialog appears, hit Settings, change this to Only People with Existing Access, select Apply, and now the link is again copied to your clipboard, and you can share that link with your internal colleague. As you can see, navigating to this link brings us directly to the document. If sharing a file with an external recipient, you want to be cautious. What we mean by external recipient is somebody that does not work for your organization or your company. They do not have a company email. They exist with a different company, and you are sending them files from your SharePoint, which they normally do not have access to. The best way to achieve this for external recipients is to download the file first and send a copy of the file as an attachment. You can use the three-dot menu and then select Download to download a copy of that file. Once a copy is downloaded, you can navigate to your Outlook, open a new mail, hit Insert, browse this computer, and attach the downloaded file. This sends a copy of the file to that external recipient. Again, this is for people that are outside your organization that normally do not have access to the file. Now, however, if the file is too big for you to send via an attachment, you may need to utilize a link, in which case you should generate a link using the share functionality, which can again be accessed either through the three-dot menu, through the share icon, or in the ribbon. You will want to set this to Can View, and then enter the external recipient. You may receive a notification that you are sharing with somebody outside of your organization. In this case, I can add a message and then choose to send an email from here to share with the recipient, or I can use the More options and do Send Link in Outlook. Again, reserve this option for large files that are too big to send via email. Otherwise, simply download the file to your computer and then send it as an attachment. Common tasks and issues. Now we're going to review some common tasks or issues that you may run into while working in SharePoint from a web browser. Saving to SharePoint when you've started the file locally in Excel or Word or other Office documents. This was partially covered in previous training, but just because this is a common task, let's review. So say you're using an Office document and it's saved locally on your computer. As we can see at the top here, this is saved to this PC. What can I do to get this into SharePoint? Well, probably the simplest way from here is to go to File, Save As, and locate your recent SharePoint sites that you want to save it in. And from here, you can select the appropriate document library and folder that you want to save in, and save your document. You can choose to change the name here, or just keep the same name. Once the document has been saved to SharePoint, you'll see that the autosave switch has been flipped on, and you should see that it is in a saved state. If I hover over it, I can see that it was saved just now. Now, as you make changes, once again, those changes are instantly saved on the SharePoint site. Now, you can actually move the file from here. If you click on the title of the document and look at location and hit this drop-down, you can actually choose to move this within the file structure. I can move up one level and choose a different folder to move this to, and select to move this document there. If you have multiple files that are saved on your computer that you need to get into SharePoint, again, we can select multiple files and drag and drop those directly into SharePoint. Once uploaded, you can interact with the document from within SharePoint and choose to open it up on your desktop. Large non-Office files. If you're working with files that are not Office documents or PDFs that are large, you're going to have to work with them on your computer, as they are not supported to be opened directly from the browser. Again, only Office documents can be viewed within your internet browser. So for non-Office documents, what should you do? Well, you can notice that if I try to open up this file, it's not something supported that I can see in here. So I need to download this file to my computer to work with it. To do that, I can simply click the three-dot menu and select Download. And then once it has been downloaded, I can open it up on my computer. I can then interact with my large file and modify it appropriately, and then re-upload the new version. You can see, because this has the exact same file name as the one that's already there, I need to choose to either replace the existing file or keep both. In this case, I want to upload the modified version. We can now see my updated file is in SharePoint. Saving emails from Outlook to SharePoint. If you need to save messages from Outlook and upload them to SharePoint, you can go to your Outlook web app and click the three-dot menu in the corner and select Download, and download as MSG. This will download your email as a file, and this file can be uploaded to SharePoint. To upload it, simply go to your SharePoint site, and you can choose to drag and drop the file into your SharePoint site, or you can use the upload button and select the email that way. If you're using the desktop version of Outlook, you can simply drag and drop your emails into an Explorer window, and then from here, upload those files into SharePoint. If you have multiple emails to save, simply select those multiple emails and drag and drop them into the Explorer window. Once in Explorer, you can then navigate to your SharePoint site and drag and drop those emails into SharePoint. A handy tip to note when dealing with common errors for moving, copying, or loading files in general, if anytime something fails, it's usually a safe bet to refresh the browser. Simply reload the page. This can also be true for when doing searches. If your search doesn't return a result or ends up in a failed search result, simply reload the page and retry the task again. The final tip that we'll share in this training is that you can choose to open certain pages automatically in Edge. For instance, if you want to set Outlook, OneDrive, and SharePoint to automatically open each time Edge starts, you can go to the three-dot menu in the upper-hand corner, go down to Settings, and in the left-hand side, go to Start, Home, and a new tab page. And under When Edge Starts, select Open These Pages. Now, you can choose to add pages individually. And if you do so, simply go to the page that you want, for instance, Outlook, and paste the URL to add that page. You can remove these by hitting delete. If you already have all the pages open that you would like it to open to, you can use this additional option, which is clear the list and set it to all currently open tabs. By using this Use All Open Tabs button, it will add all of those sites here. Be careful though, if you have sites already in here, if you use this button, it will remove the existing sites and replace them with just the ones that are currently open. Now, if I close Edge and reopen it, we will see that it automatically opens to these tabs. Other sites that may be handy for you to do this with is the calendar page of your Outlook.